Hello everyone, my name is Kevin McAleer and I will be reading to you today from my novel, Surferboy, published in 2018 by PalmArtPress. We are presently at PalmArtPress here in Berlin, which I also call home. Now, because I'm originally from Santa Monica, California, grew up in Los Angeles, born in Santa Monica, grew up in Los Angeles. Native Californian, fourth generation by the way, but now living and working and very happily here in Berlin, Germany. You'd think it was a great big ocean out there, but not where I lived. From Point Conception to the Mexican border was a greater concentration of surfers than anywhere in the world. I'd once read about a California pro who said he just pretended the crowds didn't exist and went about his wave-riding business, but he was either a liar or some kind of Zen Buddhist master. Others said, hey, it's cool, bring sensitivity and understanding into the lineup and you'll reduce the hostility, bro. Let's just share in Neptune's limitless bounty and be part of that greater ocean community. This was the sainted idiot approach. Third school said you had to be a 200-pound knuckle dragger or golden gloves boxer, preferably both. Since I was neither, the only way to beat the crowds was to ditch the crowds. There were several ways of doing this. One was to hit the beach an hour before sunrise on non-summer weekdays. If you didn't mind just a few hours sleep and surfing in semi-darkness, then this strategy might afford you 30 minutes of relatively solo faces before the mob scene hit. Another method was to play surf commando and sneak into restricted access places like the Point Magoo Naval Missile Range, where you ran the risk of being tossed in the brig, or spots with no public right-of-way like the ranch, where you'd either walk miles in from Halama below the high tide line or boat in, anchoring outside the kelp beds. Or you could put as much distance as possible between yourself and the whole California scene by taking a flight halfway around the world to surf Uluwatu or Padang Padang or some other place with a magical name that conjured lost atolls and wilderness seas. Financially sounder, but a health risk, was the fourth option, making an incursion into one of California's locals-only spots. Places everyone was afraid to surf because of the vicious territorialists who protected their beach against unwanted day trippers. Northern Ireland, the Middle East, and the beaches of Southern California. Three global hotspots of violent sectarian conflict. Our counterparts to the IRA and PLO were vigilante groups like Veil, Valleys Against Ignorant Locals, and Lava, Locals Against Valley Assholes. It was symptomatic that whenever the surf magazines profiled California, they accompanied their pictures with deliberately vague captions like Orange County or Central Coast, since they couldn't narrow it any further without getting flack from irate locals who would write in, canceling their subscriptions in retaliation for the magazine's crime of having busted Spot X wide open, and then also threatening to rearrange the face of any photographer who again dared poach their waves. Locals up north were the roughest. Places like Port Hueneme and Hollywood by the Sea had nasty reputations. Hollywood spawned the kind of wish fulfillment waves I absent-mindedly doodled during algebra class. And like any precious resource, this miracle mile of two-way peaks was jealously guarded. The Hollywood locals giving not only you, but your car a trouncing, slitting tires, smashing headlights, and sometimes just torching the thing. You should have called it Watts by the Sea. Fall of my junior year of high school, Radical Jack proposed we hit a break called Haggerty's. It was in Palos Verdes, took a great north swell, and had these meaty lefts that gave your backhand a real workout. Clean water, too. I'd never surfed there. Pacific Coast Highway completely bypassed the peninsula, chopping it off at its base and continuing past LA and Long Beach harbors to finally swerve back into the coast at Seal Beach. The only times I'd set foot in Palos Verdes had been as a kid on visits to Marineland, where I'd thrilled to Bubbles the whale and gaped at exotic fish swimming endless circles in windowed tanks. I asked Jack, "Hey, isn't PV a heavy local scene?" "You don't need to get all flashed out," he said. "I know a guy who's been surfing there for years and never got vibed. Just be cash and there's nothing to worry about." I wasn't worried. I was relieved he hadn't proposed a trip to Hollywood by the City. We started early next morning to beat the crowds and hit the right tide. The shrouded sun softly backlit Redondo Beach's landward palm trees as we cruised the coast road. From the road, we could see there was wave action, and Jack congratulated himself on his call. When the surf was up, the name breaks took the crowds, while the lesser-known spots went unridden by all except the locals. Then the road started climbing. It moved from the flats into the Palos Verdes headland, which marked the southern terminus of Santa Monica Bay and the onset of uncharted waters. Jack abruptly peeled off, driving away from the ocean. "What's the deal?" I said. "Dude I know got his car thrashed," said Jack grimly. "Is this the same dude who's never been hassled?" I said. "I mean out in the water," said Jack. His parking spot took us far above the beach. "Now this one's up to you," he said as we removed our surfboards from the roof, "but I'm taking off my leash. The locals don't wear them. I think they throw off the lineup." "Ridiculous," I said. "In a way they're right," he said. "Guys who fall off or can't hold on to their boards deserve having them go into the rocks." "The rocks?" I said. "Just hang on to your stick," he said. I undid my leash, and we started down the hill.